Children can shift from calm to overwhelmed in a way that feels almost instantaneous, and today we're looking at what is actually happening inside their developing brain when a tantrum begins. Many parents are familiar with a moment that feels ordinary, 1 second, and explosive the next. A small disappointment, a denied request, a broken cracker, a wrong colour cup, or the sudden end of playtime can send a child into tears, screams, or a collapse onto the floor. Adults often see this and wonder why such a small trigger causes such a large emotional reaction. But inside the child's nervous system, the process is neither small nor simple. A tantrum is a biological event, not a moral flaw or a behaviour choice. It is a young brain reacting to overwhelm. To understand this reaction, we first need to understand the architecture of the developing brain. A child's emotional centre, the amygdala, is like an alarm system set to high sensitivity. It reacts instantly to discomfort, frustration, confusion, hunger, tiredness, sensory overload, or unexpected changes. The alarm goes off quickly and loudly. Meanwhile, the region responsible for calming, regulating, reasoning, and applying logic, the prefrontal cortex, is still under construction. In early childhood, this area is not fully online. It does not yet have the ability to consistently slow down emotional reactions or think through solutions. The pathways between the emotional centres and the regulatory centres are thin and fragile, more like walking trails than highways. When big emotions hit, those trails get overwhelmed. Signalling breaks down. The amygdala takes over. This imbalance between a powerful alarm system and an underdeveloped regulation system creates the perfect conditions for emotional floods. A tantrum begins long before the child starts screaming. It starts inside the brain when emotion outruns regulation. The child is not choosing intensity. Intensity is happening to them. That is why reasoning with a child during a tantrum is ineffective. The part of the brain that understands consequences, logic, and calm instruction has temporarily lost access. The child is not ignoring you. Their brain simply cannot use your words at that moment. A useful way to think about this is to compare the child's brain to a shaken bottle of carbonated water. The pressure inside builds with each shake. One more shake, even if small, can make the bottle explode. The explosion is not caused by the final shake alone. It is caused by the pressure that has been building gradually. In the same way, the trigger for a tantrum is rarely the real cause. The true cause lies in accumulated stress, sensory input, unmet needs, or emotional weight the child does not have the capacity to hold. Consider how the day unfolds for a young child. They wake up, encounter transitions, follow instructions, navigate sensory input, process disappointment, wait their turn, handle separation, and manage dozens of small challenges. Even if the child seems calm, stress collects quietly. By late afternoon or evening, there is little space left in their emotional tank. When the tank is full, the smallest request can overflow it. Asking them to put on pajamas after a long day can feel like pushing a heavy door that no longer has room to open. Sensory overload is one of the most powerful contributors to tantrums. A supermarket that feels normal to an adult can feel like a chaotic festival of lights, sounds, smells, movement, carts, and voices to a child. The fluorescent lights flicker. The air conditioner hums. People move unpredictably. Boxes line the shelves with bright colours. Someone coughs. A baby cries. A cashier scans items with loud beeps. For a child whose sensory system is still developing, this environment is overwhelming. Their brain cannot filter out unnecessary information. Everything arrives at full volume. When sensory input outpaces processing ability, meltdown becomes the only available release. Even at home, sensory experiences can trigger emotional overload. The feel of a tight shirt collar, an itchy tag, socks that twist inside shoes, sticky hands, loud siblings, or sudden noises can push the nervous system into alarm. When the child cannot articulate discomfort or solve it independently, frustration intensifies. The pressure rises, and the outburst happens. Another hidden factor behind tantrums is communication limitation. Many children understand their feelings long before they can articulate them. They know what frustration feels like, but not how to say it. They understand disappointment, but cannot express why. They feel overwhelmed but have no vocabulary for overload. The gap between internal emotion and external expression creates friction. When a child cannot express a big feeling with words, the body expresses it with movement, sound, or tears. This is not manipulation. It is communication through the only channels the child has available. Transitions are also significant triggers. Moving from one activity to another demands cognitive flexibility, the ability to stop, shift, and restart. This skill develops slowly. A child deeply absorbed in play has built a mental world and emotional momentum. Asking them to leave that world abruptly can feel like slamming the brakes on a moving car. The sudden shift is jarring. The tantrum is not about the new activity. It is about the difficulty of stopping the old one. The environment plays a powerful role too. In public spaces, social pressure intensifies the experience. A child feels the parent's tension rising. The adult's nervous system becomes part of the equation. Children are experts at reading emotional energy, especially their parents. If the parent becomes anxious, rushed, or embarrassed, the child senses the instability. Their own alarm heightens. The meltdown escalates. It is important to notice something that puzzles many parents. Children often hold themselves together in school or with other caregivers, and then fall apart at home. This phenomenon is not manipulation. It is safety. School requires effort, restraint, and constant self-regulation. Home is where the nervous system relaxes. When a child feels safe, they release the emotions they have been holding in. Falling apart at home is not disrespect. It is trust. It means the child sees the parent as a secure base. Co-regulation offers one of the most powerful keys for understanding tantrums. Children borrow emotional stability from the adults around them. If the adult is calm, grounded, and steady, the child's nervous system receives that signal. The child feels anchored. If the adult becomes upset, loud, or tense, the child receives a danger signal instead. Their amygdala interprets the adult's emotional intensity as confirmation that the threat is real. The meltdown intensifies. This is why calmness is not weakness, it is biological support. Co-regulation does not mean permissiveness. A child can be upset about leaving the playground and still leave the playground. The emotional storm can coexist with the boundary. The key is that the boundary is delivered without emotional alarm. A calm boundary feels safe. An angry boundary feels dangerous. The child learns from the safe boundary and resists the dangerous one. After a tantrum, something important happens inside the brain. The emotional wave has crashed and the nervous system is resetting. This period is called the recovery window. It is the moment when the child is most open to connection. Teaching does not work during the storm. Teaching works after the storm. Naming feelings, explaining limits, and helping the child understand what happened builds emotional intelligence over time. Tantrums decrease naturally as the brain matures. Neural pathways strengthen, vocabulary expands, emotional regulation improves. The connection between the amygdala and prefrontal cortex becomes more stable. The child learns from repeated experiences of co-regulation and gradually develops self-regulation. What feels overwhelming at age 3 is manageable at age 5, and even more manageable at age 7. Growth happens in small moments, not sudden leaps. A tantrum is not a test of authority. It is not a child challenging a parent's power. It is not something to win or lose. It is a moment of overwhelm in which the child needs guidance, not judgment. When adults interpret tantrums through a biological lens instead of a behavioral one, clarity replaces frustration. You begin to see the child not as difficult, but as developing, not as manipulative, but as overwhelmed, not as resistant, but as needing help. Understanding what happens inside the child's brain during these moments changes the entire experience. The situation becomes less about control and more about connection. Less about stopping the storm and more about guiding the child through it. Less about punishment and more about teaching. And as understanding grows, calm begins to replace chaos. The message beneath every tantrum is simple. The child's brain is asking for regulation it cannot create on its own. When adults respond with steadiness, not fear or anger, the child learns what safety feels like. Over time, that safety builds resilience, confidence, and emotional capacity. And understanding this is what brings more clarity, more calm, and more connection into your home and into the world of the child, who is still learning how to navigate big feelings with a brain that is growing every day.